Okay, y'all, we'll go ahead and get started. Um, Welcome, everyone. Thank you for coming to week 3 of our political education series, which is collaboration between NC SPAN and NC Block. It is called Beyond Policing, Divesting from Police, Investing in Communities. As I said, we're on week 3. This is an 8-part, 4-week series. And we're happy to have you here tonight as we talk about the work around ending cash bail. Next. So we have 3 guests tonight who have all played or are playing a very prominent role in the fight against cash money bail here in North Carolina. First, we will have each person introduce themselves and just give just one sentence or a small spiel about your work around ending cash money bail, whether that is past or present, or maybe in the future, and a little bit of all 3. And then we will have some media and some conversation curated by Kyla and Serena. And at the end, HP is going to let us know what's been going on with the fight against money bail currently and what may be up for Black August. So without further ado, we'll have whoever wants to go first introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. This is Diego here. I'm the social media manager at NC SPAN, the North Carolina Statewide Police Accountability Network. The NC SPAN has been around for a few years now, and we focus usually on rapid response work related to police accountability. We also do research to provide for organizations who are working on campaigns, and we also do some capacity building. Our goal is to take power away from police departments and move it into the community. In the past, this has looked like our organizations we are partners with doing work around civilian police review boards, and more recently doing work around defunding police. And I'm going to drop down our social media, but you can follow us on Instagram. We also have a YouTube where we're putting where you can watch all the series, the Beyond Policing series, and yeah. So I'll drop that there and make sure to give it a click.
Hey y'all.
Go ahead.
Hey y'all, my name is Harmony Phoenix. If you say Harmony, please say Phoenix, or HP. My pronouns are they, he. I am currently living in Greensboro, North Carolina. I am, in reference to money bail, I participated in the Black Women's Bailout and has since been contracted with National Bailout as their resident healer. And that is the work that I'm doing right now currently. Money bail.
Hey everybody, my name is Kyla. I use she, her pronouns. I stay in Durham, and I've been involved in money bail work for, I think, since 2018. It's been a long, wonderful, messy ride, and I'm excited to talk more about it.
Hi, folks. So glad to be with you this evening. My name is Serena Sebring. I use she and her pronouns. My current role is Executive Director of Blueprint North Carolina, and I've been doing work, with these folks around ending money bail since about 2016. Excited to tell you more about it. Should I just do that now? Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, great. This is really exciting. I want to just open us up with and ask for folks, you know, the weird thing about webinars is we can't see you. And you can see us. And it makes introducing ourselves hard. So we're gonna try a little workaround, a couple, you know, strategies around this. So if you could, let's start out by getting to know each other a little bit. Kyle and I are gonna lead off talking about, and actually HPU too. You about to talk about this too, so get ready. I'll call you third, just so you could think about shit. But if you could put in the chat, if you're watching, your name, your pronoun, your organization, if you are rocking with an organization, and also your city. Where are you at in North Carolina? That'll help us see who you are and know who you are out there in webinar land. And we'd like to do that very much. I'm excited to talk about ending money bail with y'all as really part of what has been one of the most transforming organizing experiences of my life. And a lot of that's happened in direct relationship and collaboration with Kyla and with HP, who are also on this call. And so hope that we can offer up front just a little bit of how we came to learn about money bail as an issue, and also what transformation we've experienced and seen as a result of that work. So we're going to talk about those things just to give you a little bit better sense of where we're coming from, how this issue and how our work to transform it has also transformed us. And thank you. I see y'all getting at it in the chat. Really appreciate that. After we do some introductions, we're just going to get right into building things together. So we'll do introductions, and then Kyla's going to take us through a collaborative process, art making process. We'll watch some videos, which are dope from the National Bailout Collective that HP has mentioned. And then Kyla's going to talk a little bit just broadly as an entry point about what is money bail, and just level up our understanding so we're all talking the same language and understanding each other about the issue itself. Then I'll talk some about campaigns, how I've seen local campaigns used within the context of ending money bail to build local leadership and formation. And then finally, we're going to organize together. We're going to talk about what are some targets we can be looking at together in this long, hot summer, and how can we turn up on them? When do we need to turn up, and what are the direct action tactics and strategies that we can bring to bear to actually end money bail, to end the ransom that the beast holds over Black people's, far too often, Black people's lives. So I want to just start off. I will go and then I'll pitch to Kyla and then HP, and then we'll get into the poem. As I said, my name is Serena Sebring. I use she and her pronouns. And I would say in thinking about how I came to learn about money bail, the answer to that is really twofold. I learned about money bail in my own life before I learned about it as an organizer. Though I was an organizer at the time, my understanding of the role of money bail really came in my experience as a mother of Black children, and as someone who, well, frankly, drove with revoked tags for a while. I drove dirty for a while, and as many people do, right? It is hard to keep the lights on and the food on the table and the car registration all at the same time. And I would say, actually, yes, Kiara, it's a lot. So for about 5 or 6 years, to keep it 100, I was driving dirty in the state of North Carolina, getting my kids to school, going about my work, doing my thing. And in that context, came to really understand what it means to be a Black mother with knowing that I have a target on my back, as so many folks do. And sometimes the targets look like license plates. So I knew from that experience that I was subject to being pulled over, being ticketed, and that ultimately, when I took arrest for Moral Mondays, activism-related direct action, what was set in motion was a series of court dates, one in Raleigh, one in Durham. I missed one, wound up with a warrant, and then found myself at home one day when someone I didn't recognize came to the door. And I think that security being as it is, I'm like, if it's a Black person at the door, I might open it. And I did just that. And unfortunately, not all of our kinfolk are kinfolk, and some of our kinfolk are caught up by this beast in terms of being police officers, being COs, being probation officers. And this person at my door was one of those folks. And they were a bounty hunter looking to execute a warrant for a failure to appear. I was home alone with my 3 children at the time. And as soon as I opened the door, he grabbed my wrist and began to pull me out of my house. And, though I said, let me figure out if I can get some money together, if I've missed a hearing, let me pay whatever you've paid on it. It was not good enough. And he did, in fact, physically remove me from my home. He was not wearing any kind of uniform because he's a bounty hunter associated with a bail bondsman. And the outcome of that was that I was taken to jail in somebody's private car, and my kids had to figure out what to do as they were left home. It was a profound and terrifying experience in my life. Both for myself, for my children. And I think when I started to really understand money bail, not just from a political standpoint, was in my work as an organizer with Southerners on New Ground. So finding myself in jail and having to figure out how do I pay this is really different when you're not part of a direct action, right? It's one thing when we have actions and there's jail support and there's bail funds that are out there. And 4 years ago when this happened to me, or maybe it's 5 years ago, around that time, I wasn't aware of the infrastructure that existed. So I want to start out just by owning that our relationship as organizers to money bail is often really complicated by an experience that folks have in terms of direct action arrests, where you have coordinated jail support, coordinated bail support. And what it feels like on the inside without that is really lonely. And suddenly you're asking questions like, do I have this $1,500 to get out so that my kids don't have to continue to be home alone, left in the wake of my arrest? Or who can I borrow $1,500 from in my network? And if I don't find that money, how am I going to go to my work tomorrow? How am I going to do what sustains my family? And on the other side of those answers is really a destructive unraveling of people's lives that we see in money bail. And thankfully, as an organizer, I had an opportunity to do something about that. When Song began building out local campaigns to end money bail in 2016, I was a local Durham organizer. And began doing the work of investigating what is the prevalence of money bail in our communities, learning for the first time that 70% of folks in jail have not been convicted of any crime. And we're sitting there answering questions for themselves, just like the ones I had. How do I get this money up to get home, to get back to my life, to prevent things from falling apart? And finding also that, there's a whole different system for the wealthy. So the questions of, do you have to ride dirty through town, are not the same when you are in a different income bracket. And the other thing that's not the same is just your access to resources like lawyers and frankly, people who have money in your networks that can bail you out. And Song's work to build leadership around local campaigns, to build experiences of organizers in setting targets that are in our communities, that are elected officials like judges, that are district attorneys, that are decision makers over what we call ransom. So when I say $1,500 I had to come up with, I call that a ransom on my head. And so when I found that we had a capacity together to raise that ransom, to help people understand that it's not because you're a bad person that you find yourself subject to this system, that it's not because you don't, you're not responsible, or you're not a good parent, which are all things that I and many other moms have told ourselves. That was a real source of power for me. And the high point, I would say, was really the experience of being part of the Black Mamas bailouts over the last 4 years since. The ability to actually ask people in my community to just put 5 on it, to just reach down in your pocket and be part of getting some other mother out of a cage, and having people say yes again, again, and again. And then watching what that meant in terms of how we talk about incarcerated people, how we think about the importance and centrality of Black motherhood in our communities, was not just affirming as someone who is subject to this system, but also was really a vision that I carried forward in the work that I was proud to do it, starting in Durham and all the way to the national level for about 4 years. And I'm really excited to talk with y'all about it. One of the best parts of the work to develop local leadership and build skill and experience around this was meeting Kyla. So Kyla came on as a Durham campaign fellow, just as we were really learning how to do this thing about bailing out Black mamas and understanding the system better. And so an outcome is not just that the lives of the people were bailed out or transformed, our lives were transformed, but also here's Kyla. She's pretty amazing at this. And I think the work to invest in a next generation of leaders that can carry on, that can build on the lessons that we've learned and not repeat the same mistakes, is another huge transformation that I experienced as part of this. And with that, I'll pitch it to Kyla.
Thank you. And if people can see me now, I'm blushing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you and love you so much. My first memory of the Money Belt issue was just knowing that my Uncle Booster, my great uncle, my dad's uncle, was always in some type of trouble and needed to be bailed out. And it was I never had the specifics, but I had the specifics of my parents collecting their money to bail him out every single time, which at the time of his death, I was probably around like 16. So like 16 years of my life, he was probably bailed out, I know, like 10 times. But yeah, I feel like always knowing that we were going to bail him out, and we were going to collect the money, and we were going to figure out how to make it happen where he wasn't going to sit in a cage for days. And I came to know it as an organizer, 2018, Durham campaign organizer on In Money Bail, fresh organizer. Didn't know what was going on, but very hungry, and very hungry for power, building power, transformation, and wins. And the most transformative part of these campaigns has been after the bailouts, and the connections with the folks we bail out, as well as like the choice of like, hey, we're bailing you out so you can be free. You never have to talk to us ever again. There's no strings attached. If you want our help, we can give you our help. But if you don't want it, perfect. We want what you want. And really holding that politic, as well as Yasmin, who we bailed out last year, who was 17 and pregnant, and we were able to bail her out before she gave birth. So her child didn't have to be born in a cage, as well as she engaged with the organization, Southerners on New Ground, and came to our convenings pregnant as hell, sweating, but also hungry. And also got the opportunity to not just see organizers as people who are offering charity, but people who are just like her and who want the same things as her, and who are struggling similarly, and who are also down to build community. And her baby shower, yeah, it was just so transformative because she didn't need to be in a cage pregnant at 6 months. She needed community, she needed help, and she was super excited about these bright-eyed, bushy-tailed people who are as well as excited to throw her this baby shower. And yeah, just those experiences with people we were able to bail out and build deeper community is just literally one part of the transformation I received. I believe like in this campaign, you cannot be the same. Like engaging in Money Bell campaigns, you can't leave untouched. So yeah, that was one of my experiences that I cherish. And now she is eligible to be the Durham chapter's fellow. So the job that I was doing 2 years ago, someone we were able to bail out last year, is now in the running and working towards being able to do that job and represent us. And that is so, that's it. I don't need nothing else, actually. I need nothing else but that. I'm satisfied with everything I've put in because of that small win. So yeah, that's part of my transformation. And I'll pass it to HP.
Thanks for including me, y'all. Again, y'all, my name is Harmony Phoenix. If you say Harmony, please say Phoenix, or HP. My pronouns are they, he. How did I learn about Money Bail? Very similarly, my experience with Money Bail was personal before it was political. And I was a part of a really powerful and amazing leadership development cohort that a certain someone thought of it and was like, we should just do it. And was very grateful to be a part of the Lord's Work leadership development cohort. And within that, the Greensboro chapter was birthed, and we did our first bailout. And that is how I came into Money Bail politically. And since then, the transformation, my goodness, the transformation since then, after the bailout, I was a site coordinator for the Free Black Mamas Fellowship. And since then have been continuously working with National Bailout. I interned with them in the beginning of the year to put on the pre-convening and to help push along the work that we thought was going to be done this year. And also, like within that Free Black Mamas Fellowship, I noticed that there was something that was missing in a healing aspect. And I think that that is something that is just the thing everywhere. I think that we talk a lot about healing and how it needs to be centered, but we don't actually like make space to center it. We make that a personal responsibility instead of a communal responsibility. And I said that to National Bailout, and they were like, okay, well, let's do it. And so, yeah, the transformation of just like bailing out folks and then like being able to first it was just going to be for this fellowship that we offered these healing services, and then COVID-19 happened, so there were bailouts for COVID-19, and then the Black Mamas bailout also happened, and then we had an uprising that happened. And so also being able to bail out folks who are putting their self on the line right now and offer funds for legal care and also healing services for Black people across the country. So yeah, and learning about Money Belt also made me an abolitionist, because I think much like what Kyla said, there's no way that you can have the same mindset about the prison industrial complex while running Money Belt campaigns. So yeah, I'll pass it back to Serena.
Thanks, HP. Oh, I love these stories. And I was about to respond in the chat, but I'll just say it right now. Thank you, Kathy Greggs. But I was just saying, I like the idea of NC-SPAN telling stories. I am not all over it. I need to be gathered and collected. But if somebody does the gathering and collecting, I would love to tell my story. And I got some other folks who could tell some too. So let me know. Get at me. But thank you. Thank you, HP. Thank you, Kyla, just for grounding us in experience, in story, in our lives, and in what it's meant to do this work together. I want to turn now to Kyla for sharing a quick, we have 2 videos for you today. The first one of those, which is just 3 minutes to help give you a sense of what this looked like. It's a video about the Durham and Money Bail work from last year, and I hope you enjoy.
And we are gonna start with this video.
So SONG is a 26-year-old LGBTQ organization. We currently have over 11,000 members and supporters. That makes us the largest LGBTQ grassroots organization in the South. For 26 years, we've been here in the South, connecting people and breaking isolation, specifically LGBTQ people, Black, brown, immigrant folks, Muslims, and people who aren't part of what the New South lifts up. The life-saving kinship network that SONG has been for 26 years has just been really important to building power here in Durham in particular, where SONG was founded.
SONG has really done a lot of great work on freeing Black mamas. It is part of a multi-year strategy. The idea behind the bailouts is not just to have some kind of revolving bail fund, but for that to be a strategy for a much broader issue of having abolitionists, particularly for our people and for our Black mamas.
So the National Bailout Coalition has been amazing. We are one of the founding members of that collective, Black, abolitionist-centered freedom fighters and visionaries who come together from all across the country and share information, share resources, skill each other up, and have been able to really change the narrative, not just in our local communities, but across the nation because of that partnership.
It really helps SONG feel like we're a part of something bigger, and then also recognizing how much we've seen being pushed out this year by NBO helps that momentum.
As a local organizer, it's been so empowering to see this story amplified on a massive, massive scale, to see that Money Bail is about Black mamas, that we're going to win this for Black mamas, and I know the National Bailout Collective have contributed to amplifying this to exactly the level it deserves and making this story the winning story. This work is important because it's literally changing the lives of our people. 40 people's lives have been changed because of the work of this community. We learned that we can work together, organizers and social service providers, clergy members, and just people who are great at fundraising. So many of us have the capacity and have the ability to make real change in our lives and to show that no one should actually be in this cage, because all of us deserve our freedom and don't deserve to be punished for poverty.
Yes. Okay, y'all see my screensaver. Is that what that's called? This is a preview of where we're going in our next video, installment 2. More to come on that. Yep. Okay. So the next thing we wanted to do was really our poem activity. Oh, I went out of order. My bad, Kyla. You want to take us through poems now?
Yep.
Let's do it.
Perfect. So I'm just happy at all the smiles from the video and just the good time we had getting Black Mamas free. We had a really good time and a lot of Black joy. And now we're going to do one of my favorite activities of collective poem creating. I got this activity from Dr. Alexis Pauline Gumbs, which is a local Black feminist, magician, oracle, beauty treasure that we are blessed to have in Durham. And yeah, she does this practice on a lot of her writing workshops and immersion. And so I'm going to give us a statement, which will be when we fight. And then in the chat, you're going to type the finishing to that statement. And as each person types something, I'll read it out loud. We'll do it for 6 minutes. Don't feel any pressure. There are no right or wrong answers. It's just a beautiful thing that we are creating together in a short amount of time that we'll be able to look back on. So an example is when we fight, we win. And I don't want to give them all. So we can start in one moment. Let me make sure there are no questions about this. Okay, no. So we will start now and go. I'll read it out. When we fight, true Black girl magic. When we fight, we win. When we fight, we really win. When we fight, we grow closer to liberation. When we fight, we see each other. When we fight, we get stronger. When we fight, we see ourselves. When we fight, we are accountable. When we fight, we are stronger together. When we fight, we build power. When we fight, we get freedom. When we fight, we can't be stopped. When we fight, we love on our ancestors. When we fight, we don't sleep. When we fight, we build power. When we fight, we find our people. When we fight, we heal generations. When we fight, we find our voice. When we fight, we center healing. When we fight, we just want to make sure I said we heal generations, Ashe. When we fight, we clear paths for 7 generations ahead. When we fight, we see new possibilities. When we fight, we can find meaning. When we fight, we unite. When we fight, we break barriers. When we fight, we love Black people. When we fight, we open the future for our children and their children. When we fight, we set the example. When we fight, we have radical Black unity. When we fight, we practice courage. When we fight, we are beautiful. When we fight, we build community. When we fight, we are transformed. When we fight, we always move forward. When we fight, we lift each other up. When we fight, the state is powerless. When we fight, we are still alive. When we fight, we are survivors. When we fight, we are fearless. When we fight, we stand tall. When we fight, we are taller. When we fight, we are continuing legacy. When we fight, we are greater than the sums of our parts. When we fight, our fear shrinks. When we fight, we are avenging our rage. Reach liberation. When we fight, we love up on people we know and people we hope to know. When we fight, we are in our rightful place. When we fight, we are in our dignity. When we fight, we find community. When we fight, we don't give up. When we fight, we learn grace. When we fight, we can't be stopped. When we fight, they have to listen. When we fight, we see others who are fighting. When we fight, we clear space to heal. When we fight, we get clear on our values. When we fight, we make space for freedom. When we fight, we are reminded of who we are. When we fight, we set boundaries. When we fight, we transform and grow. When we fight, we are connected. When we fight, Egon is with us. When we fight, we thank you all. When we fight, we win. Thank you, everyone. Oh, I love this activity. And I'm going to share with NC Block what we have, and we can decide how to share this collective poem. I invite people to read it out loud in spaces that it feels appropriate. I invite people to read it to themselves when we're having our low days, which during Corona has been way more than normal. And I invite people to memorize it. Thank you. Thank you. And feel it in your body. And I will collect that. Oh, it's me now. Again. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm geeked. Can't wait to read that again. And now we're going to talk about, I'm going to particularly talk about like what is money bail. So the definition of bail that I have started to craft myself is the ransom put on bodies by a magistrate when you're arrested. And that puts the process of like, so you're arrested by the police, you're taken into holding, and then there's a money price put on you by another person who is a magistrate, who is not a judge, and who is an in-between person, who uses a risk assessment to decide what that price will be. And we'll talk more about risk assessments, but like shortly, if you live in the area, if you've been to college, if you rent or own your home. So just different questions to decide, are you a risk to society, risk of not coming back to court? The difference between a bail and a bond is posted by a bail's bonds person. So like Serena was sharing in her story of once a bond paid her bond, then they were responsible for her and then had power to snatch her out of her home, take her to jail. And they're not police. They are just a force that's in this whole system, making money also off of people. But those words are also interchangeable in the court. So if you're in court, a lot of times they'll use like a secure bond or an unsecured bond. And a secure bond is that if my bond was secured and for $1,000, for me to get out of jail, I either have to pay $1,000, have my family pay $1,000, or find the bail's bondsman and pay them 15%, and then I'm their responsibility. An unsecured bond is I could have an unsecured bond for $1,000. I am able to leave jail at that time, but if I do not come back to court on my court date, I will get a failure to appear, and the unsecured bond that I have will be added to the bond I would get with the failure to appear charge, and it will be added up together to a high bond. Yes. Do anyone have any questions on what is money bail?
Should I give you a question folks often ask about it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, an FAQ while y'all put your questions in the Q&A. We could do that. I think one question that we often get when talking about money bail is, isn't money bail good because it keeps people, away in cases of like interpersonal family violence? You want to know about that often.
Thank you for that question. And I have a twofold answer. A lot of times, most of the time, 99% of the time in domestic violence situations, they're going to arrest both people and hold both people for 72 hours. They're not going to decide who was the aggressor or who wasn't in that moment. They're just going to arrest both people. So yeah, we've bailed out a lot of survivors. And money bail is not good because it is determined on how much money you have to get out. So it's not even on the dollar amount. It could be, we've seen bails $150, which does not seem like a lot of money to a lot of people. But if you can't afford it, you have to stay in a cage. And on the other hand, we've seen people who have $100,000 bails who have access to that money, who have way different charges, but just because they have the money are able to pay themselves and get out of jail. So it's a faux safety system, and in the NC statute, money bail was never created to be able to keep people safe. It was created so people would come back to court and be there at their court dates. But the money bail system, as we see it today, really criminalizes the poor. So if you're rich, it doesn't matter what you do, you'll be able to pay yourself out. And if you're poor, you will stay inside a cage, and your family will have to ask decisions of, will we pay rent or will we get our family out?
You got a lot of questions in the chat box. Do you want to ask me a FAQ and then we can dig in and sort of bang them out in the chat? How you want to do this? I could hop in on does money bail get you out of jail? You want me to do that one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, word. So, hi Carol, thanks for your question. I think that money, so it's confusing sometimes when we talk about cash bail, money bail. Is it the same thing? Does it get us out of jail, whether we call it a cash bail system or a money bail system? I think actually ties into another question that was in the chat box, but what's the history? So Kyla said that in North Carolina, the bail system was never meant to like provide safety for people who might have been harmed in community. It was in fact meant as a matter of efficiency to get people back to that first court appearance. If we go a little bit farther back than that and ask what is the role of bail in our legal system historically, both here and around the world, what we find is that many places, including the US, began to put in protocols around bail around the 1930s, I believe. The intention here was actually to let people not sit in jail, but to allow people an opportunity to get out. And that might have been its original intention. However, what happened in the meantime is that our whole system, the whole prison industrial complex, has expanded dramatically and has really changed the intention and the function of rules like bail. So whereas initially it might have been an attempt to let people be out pending their court date, for a rapidly growing prison industrial complex that was over the course of the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, growing and increasing efficiency at keeping Black people in cages, this pathway became a way instead of keeping people in jail. And then we see the rise of what Kyla was talking about with like a two-tiered system of justice. So you might be up on murder charges, but if you've got the money to pay that bail, you can be out the same day. Whereas you might be up on charges of failure to appear for an expired registration. And if you don't have that money, then you're gonna sit there. So I think that the answer to your question, Carol, is really twofold. Money bail as a system was originally about creating the opportunity for folks to get us out of jail. But it functions in the opposite way. Little known fact, fun fact, this presented a challenge specifically around the form of bail that you pay to get someone out when we were doing our bailouts, because we thought we had to pay in cash in Durham the first year we did this. And we found out a couple of things. Number one, counties by counties vary in terms of their rules around this. So in some places you can take only cash to pay bail at the county clerk. And in many places you can actually use a credit card or a check or a money order just fine. So that's a lesson. Another related lesson is that banks don't actually hold a lot of cash. So, you know, it's one thing to collect grassroots donations, and it's another to be able to get them back out of the bank. So if you're gonna do a bailout lesson, go to the bank early, because that was hard. You wanna take another one, Kyla?
I think we should move to the next video and then take some more at the end.
Oh, word, yes. Okay, great. Time is flying with y'all. Are you going to the video?
Yep. Is there any intro you want to give, or you want me to share my screen?
Oh, I can do that. Okay, so yes, these videos both come from the National Bailout Collective. As HP has mentioned, the National Bailout Collective actually grew from the work of local organizers in the Black Mamas Bailout to become a national formation that was discussed in the last video. In this video, you're gonna get a sort of part two from the first one. So last year's End Money Bail campaign work was really represented in the first clip. In this clip, we're gonna look at how that Durham chapter really focused not just on using the Black Mamas bailouts as part of a campaign strategy, but also other forms of direct action to call attention to ending money bail. And with that, go ahead and roll. All of this, where we are standing, used to be a jazz district called Hayti, which was founded by the black people who came out of sharecropping here and created this vibrant community. In the 70s, they came through with the highway and pretty much killed what was left of this beautiful historical district and planted a jail right in the middle of Durham City.
Durham is known as an economic center for black people. It's been about a span of 10 to 20 years where we've seen a really big influx of gentrification happening, and that's changed the dynamic of the community.
Gentrification has fed into over-policing of black, brown, and poor people in our community. Durham County Jail is really not a safe place to be. So in the last 6 years, 8 people have died, including 2 years ago, the death of Nisi Farrell, who was a 17-year-old being held as a minor in adult jail and was later found dead in her jail cell. People who went in were being held on ransom of money bail and didn't come back out. For the last 3 years, we've been focused on building out local campaigns to build power, build leadership, and end money bail across the South.
We're talking about a regressive policy that continues to enslave our people. It's a matter of who can afford to not spend another day in jail.
Judge Orlando Hudson and District Court Judge Pat Evans, they have the power to set bail policy for all of Durham.
We've had 4 meetings minimum with the sheriff and the DA. We've held 4 forums in the last 6 months. We've collected who knows how many surveys and petitions.
People in Durham don't see money bail as a fair system and wanted them to change it.
And despite so many efforts of this city to elect a district attorney who was advocating for the end of money bail, they did not show up in line with the will of the people. And actually this policy further criminalizes some of our people.
Policy that included the similar dollar amounts, very, very high dollar amounts for people with drug charges. And then also it included questions for the magistrates to ask that were essentially a risk assessment. So we're trying to flip that here, actually do a needs assessment. If bail is in place to get people back to court, then that's what we need to be thinking about. What do you need to get there?
I love this video. I love this video. Was that the right one though? No, that wasn't the right one.
I was sitting here like I'm waiting for it because
I was like, it feels like we're going in the right. Let's do the other one, Kyla.
You want to do it right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, yeah, okay.
It's also just 3 minutes. I see folks wanted the video in the chat. Drop the links. Thank you, HP. And hat tip to the risk assessment and my kid in the last video, but let's go to the next one.
Awesome.
It's worth it, y'all. I promise. Best video.
And yes, I will definitely drop all of the links. They're on YouTube, thankfully. Yes. This is I mean, everyone can choose their fave, but this, my fave.
Black mamas are like the backbones for our communities, the nerve centers. And so when our black mamas are inside, then our communities continue to hurt outside.
This is the 3rd time that we've done these bailouts on Mama's Day. Over 30 people have been bailed out through these programs, and we're hoping to get another 10 out this year.
When we see black mamas come out of jail, it feels like a reunion. It feels like we're welcoming our community member home. It feels like we're doing what we're supposed to do. Like we should be here every single time one of us comes out of this jail to celebrate them, to welcome them back, to offer them support, and to ease them back into our communities.
Yes, I'm just glad we
I feel
great. I'm ecstatic. I'm in stitches. I didn't sleep last night. I'm just so happy to be out, and I'm ready to see my children.
It's so powerful to hear them come out of jail and share that they had no idea how else they were going to get out of this cage without community. When people end up in jail without having been convicted of anything, we can lose our jobs, we can lose our families, we can lose our homes. And when you leave this cage innocent, having lost money, you also have your life in shambles. No one deserves that. And this community of support is exactly what we deserve. We've been lobbying and pushing our judges and our local officials to stand with community, to listen to the voices of the people who live in Durham, who say that we don't want our people to be in cages anymore.
Judge Orlando Hudson and District Court Judge Pat Evans. They have the power to set bail policy for all of Durham. We know that these judges have all the discretion in the world to change this policy tomorrow if they wanted to. We're going back to them today and again later on this week to ask them to do better and to be accountable and to own the discretion that they have over people's lives.
We will not accept a crap-ass reform. In money bail, in pretrial detention, closest jail right here that we're in front of, divest from prisons and jails, and invest in people.
Free Black mamas immediately, and also continue to draw attention to this issue and change policy around what we have and in money bail.
We're really studying transformative justice, restorative justice.
Redefining how we respond as a community when things happen. I think it takes a lot of imagination, imagining and reimagining and thinking outside the box of the way that things have been done, figuring out ways to de-escalate situations when interpersonal conflict happens, when domestic disputes happen, when things are involving children.
And really believe that people can be transformed and changed, and knowing that this jail cannot do that. Prisons all over the country cannot transform and change people because they haven't.
Y'all, I know, right? I feel it. I felt the chills watching it. It's been a minute since I've seen that video. I really appreciate y'all's encouragement and support. I know that that day was, if I think back to where we started this call, how did it transform you? I think that in addition to being able to bring in my own skill development, the community building, the leadership development, the ability to actually take collective risk for Black women, for Black mothers, was also really one of the most healing experiences of my life. And to understand exactly what this beast was, as we had spent time studying and taking action around, and eventually you reach a point where it's time to escalate and take it to the next level of risk. And in taking collective risk, we build trust and we flex on them. And I think in that context, what the escalation of direct action from a bailout, from a mass bailout to a lockdown that I don't know if it said in the video was went on for 8 hours. Y'all, they didn't know what to do. Like Durham, they were like, we're gonna cut the gate off. We're gonna bring in the heavy machinery. And we waited and we waited. And there was a lot of commotion because what we were doing, in case you can't tell, is that we were blocking the intake gate of the Durham County Jail. So there's one way in and one way out for police cars that are bringing people in the back into custody. And so while the gate that people use to exit the jail was open the entire 8 hours that we were locked there, the gate that was for entering, the only one that can be used for police cars to bring people into those cages, was blocked because we were chained to that gate for 8 hours. And that doesn't mean that there were not other people, who were experiencing this harm at the same time, but it does mean that by using an escalated kind of direct action, we were able to interrupt that, even if only for a time, and to give ourselves and the folks that we have been building with and bailing out a vision of what it looks like to stand in actual active solidarity and say, I will put my body on the line for the freedom of Black mothers, for the safety of Black communities. And that was absolutely transformative. So I just wanted to lift up a few details out of that. I really appreciate y'all's support. It's 7:15, and I see we have questions, but before we take them, I'm wondering if I can just pivot quickly to HP. Do you want to tell us any upcoming, like, what do we got to know? M-Money bail, Black Mamas bailout, what's happening right now that folks can plug into?
Thank you. So right now I should have had the links already prepared, but I don't. But what National Bailout is doing right now, if you are an organization or group or have a fiscal sponsor, you can apply to National Bailout, a Black-led organization. You can apply to National Bailout for up to $25,000 for protest bail and legal fees. That's something that's happening right now that NBO is actively doing. And as I told you, I got brought on in May for National Bailout to be the resident healer. And since then we have 2 more. So now there's 3 of us. And we offer weekly services. Every Monday there is a grief webinar for Black folks. And this is for Black folks. It's for free for Black folks anywhere in the diaspora to come on and share in our grief. And then on Thursdays, and that's Monday at 6:30 to 7:30. And then on Thursdays, 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock, we have some type of offering. Some of the services that we offer, of course, grief work, trauma work, tarot readings, astrology readings, ancestral healing, ancestral work. We offer basically anything that you can think of that you need between the 3 of us. We can offer those services. And again, it's free to you. So it is the 2 weekly offerings, and then we also offer one-to-one care. So if group setting is not where you feel comfortable to be vulnerable or to just share, yeah, you can also get one-on-one appointments. And again, this is free for all Black people. I will put the links in the chat so folks can join in. And we are hopefully, cross your fingers, planning a healing salon that will happen in August. We wanted to do an in-person one, but COVID happened. So we're reimagining how we can create and heal together. And we got this idea from Adrienne Marie Brown. If you do not know who Adrienne Marie Brown, you absolutely should. This Black-ass magical fairy of a person. I trained with her, with these 2, with Serena and Kyla. We went to the Emergent Strategy Immersion, and it taught a lot about emergent organizing. And I was like, I feel like this can be used in healing. How do we create emergent healing practices? And so that is what we will be doing in August for National Bailout. And for Southerners on New Ground, because I do a lot of things, there will be lots and lots of things for folks to plug in to for Southerners on New Ground for Black August. There might be an action, solidarity action thing you can get involved with. There might be some haiku writing. If you like the, similar to what Kyla did with us today, there's gonna be letter writing to folks who are incarcerated. There's gonna be political education. It's gonna be a lot of things to look forward to from songs for Black August.
Excellent. This is fantastic. there is a link to the National Bailout website in the chat, so don't even stress. HP, folks should be able to find information there. And I think we have probably not enough time to get through all of the questions in the box. So I was just typing to our fellow panelists, and I want to just facilitate a transparency ask. If we don't get to all the questions in the chat box in the Q&A, is there another good space for folks to get their questions answered?
Most definitely. We can figure it out.
Okay.
We can think of something in which, you know, just not have people lingering, that people get their answers at the political education series. We have until 7:30. Do what you can, brilliant people, and we'll figure out the rest.
Okay, thank you. I was about to be like, how quickly do we need to answer these questions? Lightning round. So I'll skip the lightning round. And just want to say for anybody who is on here as a part of the block, the Blueprint, the SPAN network, Serena at blueprintnc.org. Hit me for real. Like, my email is your mailbox directly to get these questions answered by me. But then HP and Kyla are probably going to say some smart things too. So we're going to work it out and make sure that we get all your questions answered eventually. I want to go ahead and answer just a couple. I'm going to combine a couple that were in the chat box because I think it's really kind of the question that I don't want to get off this call without answering. And I want to, just make sure that we hit that. And that is, what if we end money bail? Then what? Like, what are we supposed to do? If money bail is terrible and it's keeping Black people in cages, what could we replace it with, and what else works? That's kind of a combination of some of the questions that were in the chat box, and really one of the key questions that I was asked when I was actively organizing and doing end money bail work. And I think it's important to know that money bail is a system that we are familiar with. It is something that is in our world common. It is also not the only way. And there are communities all across this country, whole states, Kentucky, where they don't have money bail. And so how do they do it? Places that have replaced money bail policies with a couple of things have shown great results. One of those things is a cite and release policy. So folks in communities are looking at how do we make sure that, like a traffic ticket or like the protest trespassing charges often, but sometimes they lock you up. You'll get a cite and release, and that's just where they give you a ticket, send you home, give you your court date. Is often very effective in terms of making sure that people attend that first court date. Actually, when we give someone a ticket, instead of locking them up right away, they're more likely to come to that first court date. Why? Because they haven't had to deal with the additional challenges of the period of incarceration, which include, lack of access to your job, unfortunately, oftentimes your children's custody, all of the sort of pillars of life that are disrupted when someone's kidnapped or held hostage for 48 hours at a time. So the best thing we can do is not lock people up to begin with. So cite and release. If we don't do a cite and release, another really interesting findings from some folks who have studied this is that actually most people do go to their court dates. Most people want to go to their court dates. Overwhelmingly, over 3/4 of people nationally make it to that first court date. There are a few things that we can do that increase the likelihood that someone's going to show up on that first court date, which is what money bail is supposed to do, according to our state statute. The other things that work even better are reminder phone calls. So money bail says someone should be kept in a cage so that we know that they'll show up for that court date. Or they should have to put up so much financial resource, a significant amount of financial resource that will essentially compel you to come to this first court date. The research shows that actually, if we make a reminder phone call and talk to somebody or leave a message with a follow-up, 90% of people make it back to that first court date. Huge, huge. And what it took was a phone call. If we want to increase those odds even more, we can add things like transportation and childcare support. So other community experiments include things like when you get a ticket from the police, you also get a bus ticket to come to court, or having childcare facilities, as Mecklenburg, we see in Mecklenburg, available on site, because in many of our courtrooms, children are not allowed, and that's a barrier for mothers in particular. So I just wanted to make sure that we hit that before we hop off. What else could we do? There's some other really good, frankly, very cheap by the comparison, ways that people are answering this question. But ultimately, the long-term answer to the question is, we abolish policing. We abolish cages and prisons and jails, and with that, the entire system of money bail. The best answer, from the perspectives of the folks on this call, from the perspectives of local leadership across the state, and from the Movement for Black Lives, is that we need to defund the beast. We need to divest from systems that keep our people in cages. And money bail is a tip of an iceberg of a much larger problem. So when we say, what can we do instead of money bail? We can also think about abolitionist practice and visioning as leading us towards a place where we don't have kidnappings and ransom holding us hostage for state-assigned court dates, where instead we are building systems of transforming harm in our communities that don't rely on the state at all. So in the short term, we can think of bailouts as sort of a vision of what's possible, to invest in our community and to open up cages for each other and to welcome people back into community and build their leadership. We can think of the work to end money bail as a boot off our people's necks, right? So even before we're able to bring about a vision of an abolitionist future, we are able to make some key interventions that lessen the suffering of our people. And in that context, the work to end money bail gets the boot off our people's necks. And then abolition as the North Star, as the true goal behind our work to defund, to divest, and to end money bail. And I want to go ahead and stop there. Make sure that HP and Kyla have a chance to offer some closing comments as well, or to pick a question from the chat as we close it out.
I am editing the poem right quick so people can have it before we close out. And my closing words are thank y'all so much. I feel all of the feelings that I felt for the last 2 years right now, and really feeling really thankful. Feeling way closer to liberation than we did 2 years ago, and thankful to still have the connections and the family that was built through doing this work. And poem coming soon.
Yeah, I just want to echo that. I'm a Taurus, so I'm sappy. So here it goes. Serena trained me, y'all. Like, Serena trained me. Me and Kyla met 2 or 3 years ago at a panel where we didn't even know each other at all. And because of this work, these two are my family. And being asked to do something, and it just so happened that we're the 3 people that are on this call to do this. It's amazing. I feel a lot of happiness and pride in that. And also just want to leave this with folks. healing, and not just the superficial, highly, everybody is like taking pictures of martinis and leaves on Instagram and things, but like actual like healing, like shadow work healing and unlearning colonialism and colonialist practices and white supremacist practices and teachings. All of that is the work. All of that, all of the work that we do, if we do not center that, we're doing it in vain. And one of the things that I am teaching now, when I offer my healing services, is that a lot of people ask like what's the end of the road? Like if they're healing, how do you know you're done? Healing is not linear, and I don't think that you're done. But I think that when you know that you are actually in the process of healing and not just attempting to start, you become an abolitionist. Because learning how to assert your boundaries and come into your full self, learning how to know the autonomy of yourself, and also being able to hold yourself accountable in real ways, is the thing that we need in order to be able to transfer from punitive justice to transformative justice. Because if we're doing the work ourselves, then we can extend that trust to other people that they will also be willing to do the work. And if we're not doing it ourselves, then we won't be able to trust people to come and be honest in transformative justice and restorative justice conversations and practices. And then we'll always lean on punitive justice. So again, the healing is the center of it all. And true healing leads you to abolition, which is how I got here and how I know that that's really the only way for everyone to be free, because everybody deserves the autonomy over themselves, and everybody deserves the autonomy to be able to choose to be accountable and make the choice and not be forced into it. So that's all I got. Thank y'all for being here. And yeah, I'm great. And this was great. Thank y'all.
Wow. Show some love to our panelists in the chat. You know, just give them some old school hearts. I love old school heart. I hit that greater than 3 in a minute. Some claps, some affirmations about the abolitionist work that is happening in North Carolina. I think that we may have a little system, you know, make sure that you got people's, as a solution to our issue earlier, make sure that you grabbed people's emails as they place them in the chat. And if you feel like that your question wasn't covered in our time together, go ahead and ask again in the email. And I trust that, you know, folks will take the time to answer your questions. Again, I want to thank, okay, saying it's dinner time. Again, I want to thank folks for coming to learn more about how we can get free. And again, I'm Femi, my pronouns are she and her. I am a training consultant with NC Block. This is a collaborative effort between NC Block and NC Span. We are here on week 3. Our next one is Thursday. And we'll be talking about the possibilities of review boards. So if you are interested in that, learning about the work that's happening around that, same spot, 6 p.m. Thursday. Thank again to our panelists of the evening. Yes, and everyone enjoy themselves and have a good evening and take care.